Just a quick apology to our panel. I had a markup in banking where a bill of mine was being considered, and want to make sure it gets across the finish line. So have had a chance to review your testimony and really appreciate your attendance. And I ask that the chairman include my opening comments for the record.
Absolutely, without objection. So did you get your bill across the finish line?
Well, I got it out of committee.
Okay, out of the gate. Senator Heitkamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to all the students here. I know this seems like it might be just really boring and not kind of consistent with maybe some fireworks that you see in other committee hearings, but I think that this discussion is so important to the future of our country. How do we take fact-based analysis, science-based analysis, and you will never separate facts from judgment. So we're going to have different judgments about different facts, and we're going to have to analyze those. But the problem is that frequently people have different sets of facts and different visions of science, some of which you heard today. You know, the challenge that we have right now regarding CO2. We can have this discussion, but frequently on things like that, the world moves around us, right? The CEOs of major Fortune 500 companies move around us and say, in their judgment, they've looked at it, they need to do things differently in their own context. The public moves around us. And that's always the challenge we have with science, because frequently in Washington, D.C., it's politicized. I mean, we just have to put that out there, that science is in the eyes of the beholder. What is in fact scientific fact? And one of the things that I resist that we're doing a little bit today is we're just looking at one area, whether it's climate or whether it is in fact EPA. This discussion goes beyond that. And I want to engage with Susan probably first, with Ms. Dudley, because we've had long conversations about the application of fact-based analysis to rulemaking. And there is a challenge here because people look at rulemaking or these challenges through the lens of what they believe to be fact. I want to just give you an example. Recently, this is actually true. A basketball player suggested that the world was flat. No, this is true. That was in a tweet. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah. And the response that someone gave was, well, we should respect his opinion. And I'm thinking maybe not. Because I thought Galileo dealt with this and was imprisoned. You know, the sun, you know, the earth goes around the sun, the earth is not flat. But yet there seems to be an acceptance in this country for a wide variety of let's respect this. And so widespread kind of narrowing of the lanes. You can have a difference within a narrow lane, but we can't be swimming outside the lane so far that we accept or have a reasonable dialogue about the earth being flat. I'm just sorry, I'm not going to do it. And so the reason why I raise that is can we in fact legislate, and this is for the entire panel, can we in fact legislate that lane in a way that really gets us back to using science, but also recognizing that judgment comes with science? And I'd like to start with Susan.
I think that's a great way to look at it. There are some things that clearly we know based on science. The world is not flat. There are other things that there is more uncertainty. As Dr. Rosenberg said, that there's a lot of uncertainty. It's inherent in everything, not just science, but in everything. And being able to differentiate what is pure science, what is pure policy, and what is in that trans science area in the middle that we need to translate from pure science to policy, that is the trickiest thing. And if we can be more explicit about that, if scientists can say, here's where the science ends, And here's the uncertainty around it. If we could be more explicit about that, I think we would solve a lot of the problem that you're talking about, where we're arguing about science when we really aren't. The Bipartisan Policy Center, I'll just quote briefly from them, they had a report in 2009 on improving the use of science in regulatory policy. And they concluded that a tendency to frame regulatory issues as debate solely about science, regardless of the actual subject in dispute, is at the root of the stalemate and acrimony all too present in the regulatory system.
Yeah, no. Dr. Rosenberg?
So I agree. I mean, this is an absolutely critical point. I believe certainly in the process of policymaking, we should give different people their due based on expertise. I certainly have an opinion on pretty much everything. My wife will tell you.
And you would agree with me, the world is not flat.
I'm quite certain that the evidence is overwhelming.